the financial impact. We have our speaker today, Mr. Michael George, who's a financial advisor, and I will be your moderator, Savania DeBarros. So a little bit about myself first before I give you the deets on Mr. George. I'm a first-generation lawyer, also law business owner here in Chicago. I'm an entrepreneur, a published author, public speaker, and of course, a mom and wife. I love, love, love helping people, and I love life. I'm also a former D1 student athlete, and I received my bachelor's degree in political science from USF, my master's degree from Everest University, and my law degree here in Chicago from the Chicago King College of Law. But without further ado, I want to introduce you to Mr. Michael George, who will be your presenter today on the issue of financial impact amid the COVID-19 crisis. So Michael George, he's just phenomenal. I call him my soul brother. So Michael is a financial advisor, and he partners with individuals, established businesses, and their families towards piloting their financial objectives. He educates clients on a multitude of financial topics through educational seminars and one-on-one consultations. In 2018, Michael joined Bank of America Merrill Lynch through the Financial Advisor Development Program. He also holds a Series 766 in Life Health and Variable Contract Insurance license. Michael's philosophy is to understand his clients, their life situations, and the purpose of their wealth before strategizing with his team of experts to leverage their expertise towards a winning financial solution. And that's amazing. Something also interesting about Michael, he migrated from Trinidad and Tobago to New York City in the late 90s and was accepted on a track scholarship to Bowie State University in the early 2000s. He was later awarded the university's Model Institute of Excellence Undergraduate Research Fellowship. And if that wasn't enough, guys, Michael went on to become a BSU honors graduate and was awarded the Maryland House of Delegates Achievement Award for Academic Excellence. It was during the height of academic success that Michael lost some of his closest relatives through death and divorce. The financial struggles that followed became the catalyst that guided him into education and financial management. So then Michael attained a master's in education from Valparaiso University and has worked respectively in K-12 higher education and government agencies as a Woodrow Wilson Teaching Fellow, a research and assessment associate for McHenry County College, and as a procurement analyst for the New York City Department of Education, Division of Contracts and Purchasing. He co-founded a bilingual STEM academy that provides second language acquisition and STEM learning activities currently for elementary age students. Michael, wow, that is amazing. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Savania, for the opportunity to speak to our audience this evening on market volatility amidst the COVID-19. You know, the impact this is having on retirement plan and what business owners and individuals should be considering during these times, you know, really about diversification and mitigating their risks, you know.
Absolutely. But Michael, listen, before we get into that though, really quick, I do want to deal with some housekeeping matters. So guys, you know, we've launched this live through social media, and then for those who have come in to join us from registration, I think it's important that we do point out, considering that this is a webinar, we have no idea who you are, that you understand that there is no client relationship that's formed by you watching this video, this webinar, or later watching the video, and that if you do have any particular questions that you have, if you're here on the webinar, you can post those questions into the Q&A box, or you can email one of us later after the webinar. So we just want to make sure that we're not going to put something out there to establish a relationship that is not accurate, okay? And so I just wanted to throw that out there for a disclaimer. Like I said, though, if you have any questions throughout this webinar, please feel free to post those questions in the Q&A chat box, and we will definitely make sure that we keep an eye on those so that we can get your questions answered. Michael?
Yeah, and I just wanted to add there, so just so our audience understand, these are my views and my opinions, and not the opinions of Bank of America or Merrill Lynch. While I have the opportunity to work for a wonderful company, these are my views, and this should not be misconstrued to take this as advice. We always recommend that you seek and establish a relationship with someone that you trust if you need additional advice, and yeah, and we can go from there.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. So our topic today, to remind you all, is on the COVID-19 crisis, the financial impact. And right now, our current climate has either forced people to be laid off, or they've been transitioned to work from home, which may be a completely different dynamic for some people who has never had to work home. And so a lot of citizens now are asking themselves, what does this mean for me financially? Do you have anything that you want to add on that, Michael, before we get into the big potatoes of this webinar?
So Anya, we are really are in trying times. We are actually seeing life change before us. I mean, just looking at the advent of technology and how technology is being used, even in terms of preparedness, in terms of being able to work from home remotely. I know for my kids, my wife, myself, we've been working from home for this whole week, and while it did present challenges, we were still able to be productive enough to get our jobs done. I mean, from a financial perspective, though, what I would say to most people is to be in touch with your local government representative. They would know exactly the resources, and they would know where to direct you to be in touch with the right organizations who are distributing, or who would be responsible, or the gatekeepers for making sure the resources that are being provided, whether through the community or through the federal government, that they are reaching the right people. But again, you have to be in the know, and you have to trust your support system, and know who those people are to give you the right information.
Yes, that is very, very true. Thank you so much for that input. So I want to get into it because like we've all have seen and said, we do have a situation that's going on right now, which is the coronavirus. And there's market volatility right now. And so if you are a business owner, one key question that I have in mind is, what are you sharing with your clients, in volatile markets like this with the COVID-19 crisis? So what is your take on that, your advice on crisis and volatility as it relates to business owners?
Yeah. Business owners and individuals should be first and foremost considering, how diversified they are in terms of their investments, and how are they mitigating risk right now. First, before I get deeper into that, I would begin by saying something that I read about Mike Tyson when he was asked by a reporter whether he was worried about Evander Holyfield and his fight plan. And Mike Tyson answered, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth,
Mm-hmm.
And I say this to preface the fact that during trying times, we are experiencing, the uncertainty of COVID-19 amongst market downturns. And the strength of your financial plan and your support system will certainly be tested, COVID-19, like most disasters, do not announce their arrival. They just show up.
Mm-hmm.
And during these times, you have to be able to shelter the storm. Now, what that may look like is different for each person, because each person's or business owner case would be different, right? But being prepared to seek shelter from the impact of the storm is the first and foremost necessary. This is no time for heroics unless you have a crystal ball. And I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if you have a crystal ball, but I know the economic pundits out there who talk to us, they don't have a crystal ball,
Right.
But, on a more realistic note, after the storm passes, what you have to be able to do is to quickly assess your situation. And whether that's the market, whether that's the portfolio, whether that's your inventory, whatever it relates to with you. Maybe for some people it's the case of your health, because who knows, how many people will be impacted and how they will be impacted by this virus, right? But the truth and the fact is that once the storm passes, you have to be able to rechart your path to your true north, meaning you have to get back on track to your goals and your objectives.
Right. I want to interject really, really quick, Michael, because it's something you said about being able to weather the storm in volatility like this. And one thing that I just have in mind is we see COVID-19 all different types of ways, not the virus itself, but the storms that people have to weather, right? So one thing that you said, and one thing that I know about you is that you lost some of your closest relatives through death and divorce. And that was one of the things that really sparked a drive and a purpose in you to understand and be educated about financial management, right? And so some people always or will hit a crisis mode, but they've never planned for it, right? And so if you are a business owner who hasn't planned for your quote unquote, your particular crisis mode, what would be your advice in like what you would share with them whenever a crisis do come up?
Yeah, that's a really relevant question that takes me back many years, right? The worst thing to be is unprepared, right? And so what I will say is the unprepared will usually miss the opportunity to get back on course in a timely fashion. And it could be detrimental to your success. And I'm talking from experience here. As I say, at the height of my academic success with everything, with shooting for the sky, when I experienced tragedy, death, divorce, and all of that, it truly crippled me because I took a long while to find true north again. And so what I would say to our business owners is that you have to have a plan. You have to have the courage to be able to weather the storm. And then, as I said, you have to be able to find true north and find it quickly. You can't be derailed from your pathway. Before I wanted to share something real quick. When COVID-19 hit, there's a volume of research that says that many economic factors is going to impact the stock market returns. As we know, the research is out. One major concern for business owners today is this impact of this epidemic, right? And so we can look back. In the 1980s, it was HIV/AIDS, right? And the market went down. I mean, then there was the pneumonic plague in the 90s. Then there was SARS, bird flu, swine flu. Then there was cholera, Ebola, Zika.
Yep. And the Ebola is kind of new still. Yep.
So what this brings to me, is that there's a resilience that you have to develop, and I talk about it as the principle of consistency, right? And we have to be in it for the long term. when you think about your business plan, your business continuity plan, these are things that you have to factor in for the long term, and you can't just go by day or wing it, because
Right.
wing it, chances are you will not recover when crisis mode happens.
Correct. I want to tap into something you said before, which takes us to our next slide about the principle of courage. You said that a lot of people are unprepared, and so they miss the opportunity to get on course, right? So how do you maintain a principle of courage in a downturn market like this, especially if, you know, your only income is with whatever job you have and you're seeing your retirement plans kind of just dwindle down? Like, how do you implement that principle?
You know, that's a very good question. And I have to say that, you know, my wealth of experience and knowledge, you know, I learn from those who have went before, and I listen carefully to those that I'm around. And so my market executive sent out a message to the team recently. And this is the analogy that the message was conveyed. The message was, if you are in an airplane traveling from Chicago to LA, and the plane begins to experience turbulence, do you, the individual, get up and tell the pilot or the hostess, you know what, I'm ready to jump out of the plane right now? No, you don't do that. As a matter of fact, you have to put your trust in the pilot and his team that's on that plane to get you to your destination. He reassures you that his skills and training will get you to your destination safely. Now imagine you put your whole life, your one life, the one life that you have, you put all that trust for him to get you from Chicago to LA.
Right.
So now let's talk about it from a business perspective. Let's talk about it from, you know, you putting a plan in place so for the success of your business and for the success that you are going to have, the resources that you need to have in retirement. And so for that, a financial advisor's goal is to get you to your retirement destination, right?
Kind of like that pilot, huh?
Exactly. He's like that pilot. And so it is about developing a relationship, unlike the relationship with the pilot, where you know, sometimes you may be able to say hi to the pilot, but
right, but you don't know. True.
but here, this is a relationship. It's not a transactional relationship. It's a relationship where this advisor becomes part of your team. He reassures you, and he helps you stay the course during those rough patches, as well as your successes.
Right. Wow. That's amazing. So like what I'm hearing is, number one, you have to have the willpower to find the courage within yourself to know that everything will be okay. But also too, if you're implementing a necessary foundation in your life or your business in your financial advisor, your financial advisor can also help you to stay the course through that courage and guiding you step by step by step. Like, hey, this is what we're going to do. I understand that we're at this point, but let's see what plan we can make to keep us stable and come out of this okay.
And to that point, Sylvania, retirement, people have to understand that retirement planning is more than a 401k, right?
Yeah.
401k is only one aspect of a retirement plan, right?
Right.
And I mean, today people can automatically deposit, you know, their paycheck, you know, to their 401k, and you know, we are believers in pay yourself first.
Yeah.
You know, but also money has time value, and if you give your investments time to perform, instead of chasing the next hottest tip in town or the next shiny toy that's coming out there,
right,
and implement a good long-term strategy, couple that with some tactical asset allocation to compensate for the unpredictable market, and then making sure your portfolio is well diversified. These are all things that take courage,
Yes.
for you to sit down and understand that there is a strategy in place to get you to your destination, irregardless of what's going on with the economy.
Yes. Nicely said. Nicely said, Michael. So I want to move us into the next principle of preparation, because I think that was such a great transition.
Before we go there, can
Okay.
I make a next comment?
Okay.
And I think this is important for our listeners out there, right? 41% of employers provide access to a financial professional. I'm talking 41% of people who has jobs and they work for a great company.
Wow.
They have access to a financial professional at no cost, right? I believe this is important, an important investment that has such a serious impact on your post-retirement income. The question is, how many people schedule time to speak to that human resource they have available? You know what I mean?
And it's probably very little. And one thing that I'm wondering is that information that's being given to the employee, at the time they become, they get linked up with that job or position or what have you, or whatever benefits that has that in there. How will they really know that they have that opportunity to meet with a financial advisor? Because I think some people feel like, if I have to go and speak with the financial advisor or planner, then that's just a whole nother level of money I got to put out just to meet with somebody. And now with the COVID-19, people are really watching their coins. And so what advice would you give to them to even just discover, do they even have that possibility as part of their benefits with their employer?
I mean, they can reach out to HR. They can reach out to their HR and ask a question. Most people, once you start working, you have a benefit plan, and I just have to say, working with Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, they do a phenomenal job in terms of making sure and sending you communication to say, hey, schedule a time to talk to your your financial advisor, or talk to your wellness coach, whatever it is. But even more so, Savonia, think about it this way, right? Coming to think of it, you and I both were track athletes in college, right? Now we coach business owners and professional athletes in their financial and legal endeavors, right?
Right.
What does a good coach do for a professional athlete?
They train them. Some of them become their personal advisors, their confidants.
And exactly, a good coach sees the potential, sees the ability, sees where this person can go with discipline, a disciplined approach, and guidance, and take them to the next level, right?
Right.
The question then, is what does your retirement plan look like? Is it battle tested? Is it diversified? This is the things that, as a business owner, as someone, and I can say, the business owners I talk to, most of them are so focused on the small business owners who are trying to generate income. Some of them, I don't know if they have time to really look after their retirement portfolio,
But can you afford not to put in the time? That's the issue. A lot of them, and I've dealt with that issue a lot. Just in when I bring in a business client, I'm looking at everything you got, because your finances is a huge portion of your business foundation, your stability. So if your finances aren't in order, everything else is going to be derailed. And so I know for a fact there is a lot of small business owners who are not putting in the proper time or making that you know,
priority.
a priority. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I say, I always ask, can you take the proverbial punch? In other words, is your risk tolerance in alignment with the level of volatility that you can handle? You know what I mean?
Right.
And you have enough time to recover from a deep market decline. And if you don't know the numbers that you're working towards, right, in the end, to prepare, then prepare to fail,
Exactly.
And this just has to deal with the principle of preparation.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. So in your opinion, talking about the principle of preparation, I mean, I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, but hey, this is something that is very important in a crisis, before a crisis, after a crisis. Why is it important that someone talk to a financial advisor or acquire one?
Yeah, so, the journey to financial, to, spiritual, to physical wellness is a never-ending journey. Each stage of life tends to present new and unique challenges. And as I mean, I can't stress it, that preparation starts with a plan, right?
Yes.
And you can have unplanned life changes. You can have a breakdown in life. You can have a breakdown in life journey. I mean, nobody's immune. Life is not a fair player. He doesn't say, "Oh, you're going to be scared,"
I'm trying to tell you. Right.
You could die. I mean,
Yeah.
how prepared is your house if you were to die now? Like,
right.
There's no age limit that says, "Oh, you have to live to a certain age."
Yep.
And and as a wife who has a husband and children, and as myself being a husband, one of the things we have to say, does my wife and children know where things are? Am I going to leave them in debt? If
right.
What other things have I prepared for in the event of these unforeseen circumstances? But listen, Bob Marley, reggae legend from Jamaica, said this in one of his songs. He said, "In the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty." Right? And today we're living in a time where there are advisors that are able to work with, all classes of people, right?
Yeah.
And what people need to really understand, an advisor is just really a relevant human capital resource for anyone needing advice on how to reach their retirement and investment goals. These trained professionals can help guide you down the right path, help you avoid pitfalls, help you avoid blind spots, keep you on course during turbulent times, right? And I heard you rightfully said it earlier that, sometimes it becomes another task that we have to do on our to-do list. But, COVID-19 shows how fragile our way of life can be.
I'm telling you.
And how situations can change overnight,
Right.
So we need to take the time to do the impactful thing.
Right.
You need to have a conversation with a licensed advisor. And if you don't know how, or you don't have the time to implement a plan for yourself, reach out to somebody and say, "Hey, do you know someone that I can talk to about making, my plans for my business?" It could be business succession planning, which is very important. Some business owners don't think about, how am I going to get out? When do I want to get out? How am I going to do that? So, and I believe that's where we are able to add value by having a conversation with these people.
Yes. I totally agree. I've seen way too many times, and not just with finances, but way too many times that people jump into really serious situations without taking a moment to give thought to the level of preparation that should go into something. And sometimes there may be people who try to prepare for something, but they leave it and they forget it, and they never come back to plan out the rest of the phases or things that are going to happen at the next level. And it puts them in a very detrimental situation. We see this a lot with divorce. You see this especially in business. I mean, what happens when you start a business and you have another partner and you end up in divorce? You know, you never even planned for that because you don't have the proper paperwork to, you know, not pull your business partner into that with you. When people pass away, I've seen businesses literally get caught into probate because there wasn't any proper planning, no succession planning, no estate planning, no financial planning. There was nothing, you know. And I could get into the professional athlete thing, you know. I mean, we'll be here all freaking night, dude. You know, and the thing is, and this is definitely one of my passions, is really educating individuals, whether you come to me as a professional athlete or a standalone business owner. If you're working with me, I'm all about preparation. What do you have now, okay, that we may need to spruce up, and what can we put in place for you? Because it's always better to have something than have nothing, all right? So even if you did have a financial plan, for example, and maybe you had one portfolio, say this person came to you as a business owner and they had some stocks and bonds or whatnot, or they had a personal IRA, but then they had this one little small portfolio of whatever it could be out to the side, and they never included that into their estate plan. Well, guess what? Now that one little portfolio is in court, in probate, because now you got all these people fighting over it who never had anything to do with them in the first place. Like, that's a person who took measures to try and protect their legacy, right? That's a person who tried to properly plan, you know, and somewhere down the line, part of it fell, but not all of it fell. And that's what I mean by have something versus nothing, you know, because then at least, you know, for the most part, whatever preparation you did to try to protect the people you love and the legacy you want to leave with your business or your brand, it will still be intact. And so I definitely feel you, Michael, on this principle of preparation.
And so listening to you, you know, it just talks about risk management, right?
Yeah.
Risk management and risk mitigation, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's what this is all about when it comes to your finances. When it comes to let's put aside the finances. Let's talk about the health. Why you think we are being sent home, having to be work from home? The kids are working from home. Is to mitigate the risk of so many people getting infected by this virus.
Yes.
That we don't have the capacity to tend to everyone because everybody's sick at the same time.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's not, you know, while we are in our professional space, in the financial and the legal realm, this goes way beyond. This is about just common sense, realizing that, you know, we have to take measures to protect our health. We have to take measures to protect our finances. We have to take measures to protect us from the legal ramifications of things. I mean, yes, the laws and the courts are in place for a reason, but if you don't know what you're doing, you know,
right.
Yeah, so it's about risk, right?
And that's whether you have a COVID-19 crisis or not.
Any crisis.
Right. Any crisis.
Yep.
All right. So it's definitely important, and we know this, it's definitely important to speak with a financial advisor, and if you don't have one, definitely need to acquire one. And going back to a point that you mentioned before, you found out or read through an article that 41%, which is a huge number, 41% of employees are provided.
41% of employers provide access to a financial professional.
Okay, thank you for correcting me on that. And so if you are watching this webinar and you have a job, with benefits.
Right.
You need to go talk to HR and figure out like, hey, is this in my plan? Because I want to do what is necessary to prepare, not just in a crisis, but just for the long haul. Because regardless of who you have around you, when the day comes and the good Lord calls you home, a legacy is going to be left. Now, what type of legacy that is, that's up to you. Yes. And it starts with preparation. Yeah. Right.
And a lot of times people have like, the natural cycle for most people is most people don't just start off in their career. They work multiple jobs before they even find a space that they feel like this is the space that they want to grow into. And so sometimes they have multiple 401ks or multiple 403bs hanging around.
Okay.
And those are things maybe, do they even go and look back and say, how is this performing? And maybe consolidate those things. These are the things, when you talk to your advisor, they're going to bring up and ask you, what are the goals for your wealth? What are the plans that do you have? When do you plan to retire? And so what is the saying that a goal without a plan is what?
What is it?
There's a saying that says, a dream, a goal without a plan is just a dream.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that before, and it truly is.
Yeah. If you don't have a plan as to how you're going to get there, you see what happens is when the turbulent time comes, then it's easy to get you off course.
Right.
You don't know where to find back true north again. And
right.
That's why, you have to just really, be mindful and respect the principles that we are talking about here, because, it is so impactful. It is so detrimental to someone's ignorance that who doesn't sit down and say, these are the things I have to do versus chasing things that, that are urgent. Yes, the urgent can get done too, but you have to get to the impactful things, because those are the things that make the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I was thinking about when you were talking about dreaming and a dream just being a dream without anything else, we have our dreams, but then you have to plan, which is our preparation. And then your plan has to take you back to that principle of courage, because you can plan all you want to, but if you're not trying to do anything, then you're stuck in a place of fear. And then that's going to stick you in a place of stagnation, and then you're never going to realize those dreams. And so from dreaming to planning to having courage, then that courage helps us to move forward into action mode. And when we start going into action mode, now we're putting what we plan to prepare for to the test to get us where we want to be. And so even with the COVID-19 crisis, going back to one of the earlier slides about what does this mean for me now financially? Well, I'm reminded of something Coach Darren said on his Instagram feed. Bro, anybody who ever had that thing that they wanted to do, like, there is no excuses. This is the time now. You have the time now, right? So don't allow your dream to remain a dream. Put a plan in place. You have time, pencil and paper available to prepare for what you want to happen next. COVID-19 crisis does not have to be the end all be all for you.
Yeah, well said. I couldn't have said it any better, Sylvania. Well done.
Oh, thank you. So we're going to move into identifying risk. So what action items must individuals consider with regard to retirement planning? And before you go too deep in, you did mention having a 403B. And so for us non-financial people, can you break that down for us?
Yes.
What does that mean?
So like institutions that are like nonprofits, like university schools, they offer what is called a 403B plan. It's a retirement plan also, but retirement plans are categorized differently based on what type of organization you are. Whether if you for profit or non-profit. Then that's just really high level without getting too much into the weeds of it.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so getting back to my question, what would you consider to be some major action items that people should take now or in the near future with regard to retirement planning?
Yeah, as I said, we've been saying it, right? We're certainly living in interesting times.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to retirement planning, which, as I said, not to just think 401k, I'm talking about our entire retirement plan.
Right.
You want to consider a number of factors, and I have three key things that I would bring up. One is longevity risk, and that
Mm-hmm.
means, you know, are you do you have longevity in your family where you may outlive your retirement savings?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's unpredictable. People tend to be living longer, much more advanced medical technology than we had years ago. So now people are living longer, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second factor.
Oh, well, hold on, wait. Put it like this: the baby boomers, I think, are living longer. Which is very sad. Like the baby boomers are living longer than the millennials. That is very sad.
I don't have any statistics. I don't know, but they have been around and they're not going anywhere.
They ain't going nowhere.
Right. They're heavily competing with the millennials right now, right?
Right.
Yeah. And the second thing is market volatility risk, as we are experienced now in the down markets.
Mm-hmm.
What happens during these times is there's poor market returns can reduce some people's portfolio, and if we've been listening to some people within our space, they talk about their retirement or their investment portfolio dropping more than 20% in some cases. And that all speaks to how diversified their portfolios. But
Mm-hmm.
the truth of the matter is some people cannot afford to take these type of declines because they just don't have the time to
Right.
And as I said, we don't have a crystal ball. While we stay optimistic, while we have known from historical performances after every major one of the, whether it's a swine flu, HIV, we
Yeah.
have seen that the market remained resilient and it has rebounded and expanded. I mean, come on, we've been on a 13-year bull run.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but we do know that the market does go in cycles and there's a time that it's going to go down, right?
Right.
So can you afford and are you positioned in a place where you can take such a decline? And so
Mm-hmm.
you have to look at alternatives to circumvent, that decline. And the last thing is, we do not know what unplanned risks are laying ahead.
Right.
And that could be a healthcare crisis. That could be a natural disaster crisis. That could be something in the family that's related to you, that
Right.
impacts your investments, that it impacts your assets, it impacts your way of living. I mean, there's so many unplanned things, and there are ways that you can also mitigate risk there too, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We buy insurance for our house because why? Do we want our house to burn down? No, we
Nope.
don't. But it's wise that we do it in the event
Mm-hmm.
something goes wrong, right?
Right. Right.
The basement gets flooded, something happens. We don't intentionally go in and say, "Oh, we hope this is this," and it will never happen. But
Right.
we make sure we get protection in the event something happens. This is
Mm-hmm.
the same
Mm-hmm.
thing. We do the same thing with our health. We have health
Right.
insurance. Why? We have car insurance. Why? Right? And so we have to look at things from this type of perspective, the unplanned risks that are there. You want to make sure you are well protected, that you have sufficient protection, and not just, basic protection. You want to make sure you're well covered. So in terms of that, those would be the three key things that I truly believe, someone from a very basic level needs to look at and assess in their own life, ask themselves those questions. And then, I have 7 points, without belaboring it, that I would like people to really sit down and think about, right?
Okay.
Your retirement plan should be stress tested. It should be stress tested for longevity protection.
You said stress tested?
Yes.
Okay.
So you should stress test that. It's
Mm-hmm.
like when you build, like in engineering, when you design something,
Yeah.
you would stress.
Or even just the car. They take
Right.
it through multiple assessments to see if it's safe for the consumer.
There you go. So
Yeah.
same thing with your retirement plan. It should be stress tested by looking outside of investments only portfolios, meaning your retirement plan should not only be the stock market.
Right.
It should not only be that alone. You need to look at it in different ways. You definitely
Mm-hmm.
need to have a plan and stick to your plan. You need to have a well-funded emergency fund.
Mm-hmm.
Create the right mix of diversification and asset allocation to protect you during down market times.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that we talk about personally between ourselves is having a tax plan to
Mm-hmm.
be able to minimize your tax burden, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean I'm saying don't pay your taxes. I'm saying, yes, I truly believe we work and we should pay our taxes. However, there are ways that we can be wise about our tax burden.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to be aware of the next hot thing that someone is coming to recommend for us, right?
Yeah.
The next, I don't know, gold rush, right?
Yeah.
And last but not least, see.
You mentioned that I've been thinking about throughout this entire webinar. You've been mentioning diversified portfolios, and it brings me back to 9/11. So my husband works for United Airlines, and there are a lot of people, customer service, ramp service techs, who have been working for 20 plus years with United. And when that happened, the market crashed and they pretty much lost all of their savings. So, fast forward, some of those same people are still working because they were working to try to build, back up that portfolio, that retirement plan, so they can actually have, a good size retirement to live off of. So when you say diversified portfolio, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, you ever heard of the proverbial saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it means don't put everything in one. And while there are some rules and regulations that are in place when it comes to an employer-based retirement plan or 401k, as this case may be. There are some things you can do and you cannot do. But again, it speaks clearly into the idea of speaking to a financial professional who is able to look into the plan in much more depth and advise you as to what you can and cannot do in terms of diversifying, and maybe also having that conversation with the resources that the company's HR may have in place for employees to and to talk with their employer about, or whoever is managing the sponsor of that plan, to say, here are some things that I'm thinking about, here's what I'm comfortable with, versus making a speculative decision and putting 100% trust about your retirement plan in someone's hands, and you have no idea what you're invested in.
Right.
Yeah, so there are a number of things that definitely you look at. how long you're away from retirement, how aggressively you are invested in your retirement plan. There are a number of factors that we do go into from a fiduciary due diligence standpoint. And these are the questions that people have to be knowledgeable to ask, and advisors need to be also cognitive enough to share with their clients about how to structure their portfolio.
Gotcha. That's amazing. And so even just with that, I think that was a great segue into this slide. Don't allow COVID-19 to destroy all you fought for. Everything that happens to us happens for a reason. That's my belief. And we can look at it in terms of it being a setback, or we can look at it as an opportunity. And we talked a lot about preparation, so if this is something that is, making a huge hit to your retirement plan or whatever savings you had, don't look at it as a setback. Look at this as a lesson, as an opportunity. Now I know I need to be prepared. Now I know I need to plan. What are those things that I want to do, right? Well, you have the opportunity. COVID-19 is giving you that opportunity to stop dreaming and actually do it, right? And we talked about taking your dream all the way to preparation phase, having the courage to move beyond that, and then implementing that action so that you can get what it is that you want out of life. Michael, thank you so much, because I think that these key points is really going to help people, whether you're a business owner or just an individual. You need to understand that there's going to be market volatility at any time. And it's not just with COVID-19 crisis. We've seen this over and over again. All right. It's important that you have the principle of courage to keep moving beyond what is happening now. And don't look at it as this is something that's happening to me. Look at it as an opportunity. Take the principle of preparation, put measures in place so that when situations like this do occur, you're not one of those people who's panicking. You're not reacting because you've been proactive the entire time. And then also, in the midst of everything that you're doing, you're gonna always identify risk. And one of the ways to identify your risk is to definitely have someone on your team with you who can go through your portfolios with you, not just in a crisis, but on a regular basis, whether it's monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually, so that you can make sure that you have a portfolio, or as Michael says, a diversified, not putting your eggs in one basket portfolio, so that you're going to be covered and you're going to be able to weather any storm. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been amazing. Michael is awesome. I really, really like him. He's very smart, and he gave some great insight on some things that you really should be thinking about in this market to get yourself to the next level. If you do have any questions or need financial support, you can email Michael. His email is here at mgeorge, George, number 5 at ml.com. You can also follow him on LinkedIn at prof-pete. If you have any questions in regards to legal, you can reach me by email at askthebarrows@slthebarrows.com, and you can follow me on all of these social networks: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. I hope that you guys enjoyed this webinar as much as I did, and if there are any other webinars that you would like us to speak on, or any particular topics, please feel free to email that to us, and we will be sure to put something together to educate you, support you, and guide you in your next journey. I hope that you guys have an amazing night and a great weekend. And remember, don't let COVID-19 destroy everything that you fought for. Let's beat COVID-19. Have a good night.